Professional curmudgeon Bill Maher had some choice things to say about Stan Lee passing and comics in general way back in November, and suddenly it's become a big thing again. Normally I love professional curmudgeons, speaking as an amateur curmudgeon, but he's doubled down recently to insult filmmaker, male feminist, misogynist, and Green Arrow writer Kevin Smith. And I'm frequently of two minds about the things that both Bill Maher and Kevin Smith have to say. I'm fans of both. But Bill's comment that comics don't matter any longer is preposterous. Our comics, as all of our fictions and as all of our humanities, matter tremendously because they are us. Hi, I'm Dan Upton, and this is the Doomcast. Our reality shapes our fiction. We become our fiction. Our fictions shape our reality. The technology of language and symbolic consciousness through art allows us to control other people's thoughts, emotions, and directly project our ideas into their consciousness. So one piece of art enters a human mind. It becomes a living idea. It's shaped by that person's experience, their emotions, and eventually becomes reprojected by that person in the form of another piece of art. That's not merely a comic book, or a movie, or a novel, or a song, or a stand-up routine. It's meta-procreation. If that sounds like I've read too much Grant Morrison, I absolutely have, but it's no less true. Every conversation that we have is no less important or profound than any art we take in. Comics are a profoundly different art than any other, and I think Morrison would agree. It's sequential visual art with written narration and dialogue at its most deconstructed. It was popular visual episodic fiction before serial television or movies. Comics allow the collaboration of an artist and a writer to create without the limitation of language or limits of live-action theater or television. And it's a central source of popular entertainment. Movies, television, video games are frequently adaptations of comics. These fictions that shape our reality and our most popular entertainment are incredibly important, and the creators or aspiring creators bear an incredible responsibility to it. We're also responsible to reflect the reality that we live in. So if diversity wasn't profoundly important, and it wasn't profoundly culturally influential in comics, MAGA chuds wouldn't be fighting so fervently against it in the form of things like Comicsgate. Their argument is that representation doesn't matter in media, that to change old characters and to make them, for example, gay, or intentionally foreground new characters who are trans, or black, or Asian, or women, is part of an agenda. And it is. It absolutely is. And if representation didn't make them fear marginalization, they wouldn't fight it. They're afraid simply that if other people have the power and the privilege that they have, that they'll be treated the same way they treat those people now. It's not just the agenda of a few closet leftists, a term they don't understand, or communists is another term they don't understand. It's the agenda of regular people. Readership and viewership responded to it. The free market wants diverse comics. Into the Spider-Verse, Black Panther, comics like Champions and Young Justice are among the top sellers on a regular basis. The most popular indie comic of the last decade is about an interracial romance that produced a biracial child who's aided by a teen ghost, a black princess, a liberated sex trafficking victim, queer journalists, and a transgender former prisoner, among other all sorts of characters. Comics are a distinctly American medium with global roots. We took ukiyo-e, manga, cartoons, tracks, Arthurian romance, and the failings and successes of our history as brave pioneers. Cowardly genocide, wicked enslavement, brave liberation, regrettable discrimination, fearless resistance, and our constant drive to become more perfect into this medium. Comics are the story of the 20th and 21st centuries in the United States of America. And they will change, and they must change as America changes. They are an indelible part of our culture, our popular myth, our collectively told epics. Comics are our Exodus, our Iliad, our Odyssey, and from those epics came the Aeneid, the Glyph-Beginning, the Lord Arthur, the Idols of the King, and yes, you can draw a line from those literary classics to Zorro, and then to The Dark Knight, The First Family, The World's Finest, The Children of the Atom. Popular culture is the story of us told real time, our autobiography in which we're participating. Comics are the crucible of that narrative, the fusion of cave painting and storytelling. The war over that narrative is not merely vitally important, but a war for our very identity as any culture. To dismiss Stan Lee dismisses his struggle, Jack Kirby's, Joe Shuster's, Jerry Siegel's, Christopher Priest's, Louis Simonson's, Ann Nesenti's, Gail Simone's, Dwayne McDuffie's, David F. Walker's, Judd Winnick's, Magdalene Visago's. When a story features someone who doesn't look like you or love who you love, that story isn't any less yours. It's not ruining the character, and it's not ruining your childhood. Your childhood is ruined if you don't decide to grow up. Your comics are growing up. And I hope you can too.